Y'all, I can't even tell you if I have anything to rant about today. All I know is it's a lot going on and it's a lot of distractions. And I just hope that all of you are just staying focused and not being distracted by what's important. I mean, y'all got the Real Housewives of Pennsylvania Avenue tripping. It's a lot going on. So I want to encourage y'all to just stay focused, stay positive, and focus on the things that matter and don't get distracted by all of the shenanigans going on. But we're going to get into it today. And before we do, I'm going to take a break and I'll be right back. Well, hello, and welcome to In Your Ear Radio. I am your host, Latoya. Always so very happy to be with you on this fine, hot Saturday. I'm sure it's in the hundreds already. I don't know what the temperature is right now. Let me just check real quick. I know it's hot, but I appreciate y'all. For those of you who are joining me live on Facebook and on YouTube, remember to chat with your girl in the chat. I want to hear what you have to say as well. Let's check out the weather right quick here in Las Vegas, sunny Las Vegas, 90 degrees. All right, it's warming up, y'all. It's warming up. Woo. It's hot though. It's hot. It's hot. Yeah. So we got a lot to get into today, and I always say that I'm not going to keep you long. But when I say that, it usually doesn't work out that way. But I kind of feel like it might work. It might work out this way today. So we'll see. We'll see. We'll see. I'll give you guys a chance to hop in, and I'll go ahead and share my live with my group for those loyal people who do watch in my Facebook group in your ear radio. Let me make sure you guys have access to the live in case you want to chat as well. You can chat after the show as well, please. If you hear something interesting or you want to push back or add to the conversation, don't be shy. Don't be shy. That's why I pull up live. I could just record and just post, but I show up live because I want to interact with you guys. So don't be shy. And I know it's a beautiful Saturday where a lot of people are out in these streets. It's still the graduation streets, I think it is. And that's a lot going on. So I understand most of you just really unable to be live, and I get it. But for those of you who are, don't be shy. Don't be shy. All right, I saved this to my group. Okay, all right. So yeah, y'all, it's Gemini season. What up? Look, I got some few Geminis that I really love and appreciate. So I'm always celebrating the Geminis. I'll be kicking it, turning up with one of my cousins who's definitely a Gemini, bona fide. But shout out to the Geminis. This is their birthday season. That's what, May 21st to June 21st. In fact, that they they get to do them. You know what I'm saying? They get to get the spotlight on them. And I know some people have their thoughts about Geminis. They have a twin sign, but it said that they represent the mythological twins Castor and Pollux. If you guys know who those people are, whose names are given to its two brightest stars, the third sign of the zodiac. Okay, which the sun enters about May 21st and through June 21st. So the traits are interesting. I was reading them. I thought some of them was kind of controversial, or maybe not something I would necessarily agree with. But some of the traits are outgoing people person. I agree. Changeable. It's said that they're not necessarily grounded. For those who are not grounded, they may, in fact, adopt the weight of some of the people that they admire. I don't know about that so much, but it's also said that if they do take on that characteristic of adopting, the characteristics of someone they admire, that take it as a form of flattery. As they say, imitation is the highest form of flattery. They're also very curious and curious, as it's stated, just about everything. They have a short attention span. I don't know about that. Adaptable. Okay. They're unreliable and flaky. Now, I just think somebody was hating on a Gemini, because the Geminis I know, some of them, male, I will say in particular, because the women, they might have not as reliable. But it says unreliable and flaky, and I don't agree with that. Erratic. You can't stick to a schedule. I disagree with that. Intelligent. Love to learn. Superficial. I don't really know, but hey, Um, Not all. I can't speak for all the Geminis that I've come into. And talkative. That could be true. Listen, let me go ahead and sip my tea as we start off early up in here. Look, I have a cousin. Whenever we get together on another conversation, I would just say maybe in our book club per se, and it'll be a sidebar conversation going on with this particular Gemini. And so I've labeled her the queen of sidebar convos because we could be talking about something specifically that pertains to the reason for our gathering, but she's over there turning up. And let me tell you, the conversations be deep and good, but it's just like, the conversation just keeps going and going. So maybe some Geminis are talkative. So anyway, shout out to my cousin, the queen of the sidebar convos. Okay. Geminis are compatible with Aries, Leo, Sagittarius. Those are their love compatibilities too, as well as Libra and Aquarius, which aren't necessarily they're compatible with overall, but they're also compatible with Cancers, Pisces, Scorpio, Taurus. Not their love connections, but I don't know if y'all get into the signs like that. I do. Some people, based on your religion, if you Christian, you may not be into that so much. But I think the stars and it all lines up. If you think about DNA, the time in which you were born, those elements represent something that you come from. Whether it be winter, spring, or fall, you come from those elements. You come from a time where how the stars were aligned and where the moon was placed, and I think that all affects who we are spiritually and maybe even physically. So I don't look at it as dark, wicked way. I think it's very relative, and it's fun too because they don't always get it right. Shout out to Genuinely Pose, who was first in the chat today. What up, though? Wait, girl, I appreciate you. And also GB, who said it's definitely Gemini season. Yes, it is. Yes, Genuinely Pose says happy weekend. Lord, I'm so happy it's the weekend. I'm so very happy it's the weekend, and I'm looking forward to just loving on my loved ones this weekend and just having some fun. Other people celebrating their birthdays are Geminis. Even today, we have the Basketball Hall of Famer Allen Iverson. He turned 50. Still looking young with them puppy dog eyes. Okay, music producer L.A. Reid. He was born in 1956. He's 69 years old. You think of Janet Jackson, Babyface, all of the great hits that he helped to bring out. Nikki Giovanni, we know we lost her last year, if I'm not mistaken. She was born in 1943. Today is her birthday as well. And Prince, born 1958. Okay. And some honorary people that are Gemini, not their birthday, but Tupac, Marilyn Monroe, and Kanye West. Okay. I'm giving him a side eye because, I hope he gets some medicine. I need him to get him some medicine. Hey, you guys watched the movie Straw? Has anybody seen it yet? I haven't seen it. I'm looking forward to it. It was written and produced by Tyler Perry, starring Taraji P. Henson, Sherry Shepherd, Tiana Taylor's in it. Sinbad. Okay, Sinbad making a comeback. Now, I'm really interested to see what role Sinbad's playing. In my mind, is he playing a role of a person who's had a stroke? Because I know that he has had a stroke and he still has some of the signs and that the after effects of having a stroke. So I'm wondering if that's his role. For anybody who's seen it, no spoilers here, but that was the first thing that came to my mind. Like, what is going to be his role? Has he healed completely? And I'm very interested in seeing it. GB said it looks too stressful. Listen, I saw a guy post on what is it? One of the social media pages, and he said he can't stop crying. I'm like, what? This is a guy saying he couldn't stop crying watching the movie Straw. So I'm gonna have my tissue together. Maybe I'll need a cocktail. There's a lot going on, in this world to bring us down right now. Unfortunately, we have to keep coming up to this point where we have to say goodbye to people who have transitioned. So I just want to say that to our loved ones who left us. So it's a lot going on. And then we got this janky ass president. We got a lot going on. So a lot of times we don't want to watch things that are going to bring us down. We want to watch things that's going to make us laugh. But, I like some good acting. And even though, the consensus or majority of people will say that the Tyler Perry is not the best writer, producer, whatever, he doing his thug thizzle. He paying back Black folks. People are tuning in and watching. And you know what to expect. It's going to be silly. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be over the top. And considering the caliber of actors in this movie, I think they're going to bring whatever he wrote and produced to a whole nother level. So I'm with it. And yeah, so genuinely poised is saying that I'm trying to lay up and watch it tonight. Yeah, so I don't know if I'm gonna get to it tonight. I think it's gonna be a lazy Sunday for me, and I'm definitely gonna get into it. So yeah, straw. That's all I got for y'all. I can't remember what else I watched. All my little housewife shows are getting too ridiculous. You can't be in your 40s and 50s still throwing ice water on people and just doing the most. Just doing the most. I can't do it. You guys, it's also Men's Mental Health Month. We just came out of May, which was Mental Health Awareness Month, but this is Men's Mental Health Month, and I think that's great. That we highlighting men, especially Black men, but men in general, because men are the least likely to go and take care of themselves mentally. You know what I'm saying? They just, they're men as boys were raised to just brush it off. You ain't supposed to cry. You're not a girl. You call it a sissy if you cry. You're supposed to, men have been trained to deal with their emotions in a way that I think is almost borderline diabolical. Like, why, it's just weird. But then, I respect it and I almost admire to some degree to where they're able to, move through life without, some of the things that us women do. We're going to talk about it. We might, it might just come out. We might lash out and react in a certain way with men. And men do it too. Now that I think about it, even though they're not quick to go get counseling or talk to their friends about what's going on in their personal life. It has to come out some kind of way, right? Whatever you're going through, if it's stress, same thing with good feelings. But when you build up, at some point it's going to come out, and it comes out in so many different ways. It can come out by affecting your health. It can come out by affecting your relationships, employment. Just so many different things can cause not tending to your mental health can cause so many different things. But June is Men's Health Month, and this is a month. It's all about encouraging the men in your life, and including, men, not just encouraging other men, but men, including encouraging yourself to take care of your bodies, eat right, exercise, and work to prevent disease. The official symbol for the month is blue. It's a blue ribbon, and the purpose of Men's Health Month is to heighten the awareness of preventable health problems and encourage early detection and treatment of diseases, including cancer, heart disease, depression, annual checkups. There's so many different things men can do that they probably don't do. For one, pampering themselves. If you like getting a massage, go get a massage. Don't get the happy ending. I mean, if you married, but I'm just if you're single, that's your business. You do what you got to do. It's gonna make you happy. But if maybe a massage, maybe getting your feet rubbed, getting a pedicure and a manicure, grooming, even though, some people will look at it as being superficial, getting your hair did, your nails did, just simple grooming. I mean, simple showers make us feel better about ourselves. You can even look in animals. You see a dog, you wash them up, they got a whole nother pep in their stuff. So we feel better when we kind of, groom ourselves up. So maybe just something to make you feel better about yourself. Take a nice trip, do something fun, pamper yourself. Also, do an annual checkup. Get your physical every year. Maybe send it around your birthday so you don't forget. So you can make sure everything's straight. Your cholesterol, your prostate, your blood pressure. Everything that's important. That those are the things that keep us alive and well, so we can have a positive quality of life. Those are important things. And set goals. Maybe you want to lose weight, gain weight. Some people want to build muscle. Again, just your diet and exercise, and set goals, whatever it is you want to do. Maybe you want to buy a new property, a car. You want to spend more time with your kids. You want to take a new class. You want to learn something new. Think about yourself and what's going to, boost your endorphins and make you feel better about life and about yourself. Because when you feel good about yourself, then you feel good about life, and you can navigate through this. Because it's a lot going on, y'all. It's a lot going on. We all going through it, and we have to support each other, but we cannot neglect ourselves while we're trying to, be the support system to those we know and love. I was watching, there was a gentleman, he is actually going to have a webinar. He calls himself Professor ODI on IG, and he's hosting a free webinar. It's June 14th and June 21st. And it's based on how to find a Black therapist. I think that's important. Getting a therapist is just the start, right? Because not every shoe fits. It's just like when you're shopping for a mechanic, when you're shopping for whatever it is you do in your life. a barber. You don't just go to any barber, right? You might try this one out and then you're like, nah. Then you go to another and you might be like, and then you find one and you're like, oh, it's like a Goldilocks thing, too hot, too cold, whatever. Therapists are similar to that. You might meet a person and you might be like, nah, that's not a good fit. Don't let that deter you. But what's his name? Is Professor ODI on IG is hosting a free webinar. He said it's filling up fast, so he's encouraging people to sign up ASAP. And he's going to give information on how to find a Black therapist. I think for most of us, it's important that we can talk to someone who's relatable. So sometimes we do seek out people who look like us, Black men and women. I know most of my doctors, I try, especially, I gravitate towards women doctors, not necessarily Black, because, the pool gets smaller and smaller as, based on your insurance and things when you're trying to find a Black male, female doctor. What I found interesting, though, is that I suggested a therapist to a Black man, and I gave him a referral of a male therapist, and he came back with, I would prefer a female therapist, a woman therapist. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. I always thought that men would be more comfortable talking to another man. So the men out there, let me know, would you feel more comfortable talking to a male Black man therapist as a Black man? Or would you prefer a woman, Black woman therapist? Because I thought that was very interesting. But again, Professor ODI speaks to mental health and how men process hurt as disrespect. So I wanted to just highlight some of the things that he speaks on in case you're interested in hearing what he has to say. So I'll play a clip for you right quick.
Whenever you feel an emotion, your body will tell you that you're feeling something. So Is your stomach turning? Is your heartbeat increasing? Are you clenching your jaw? Are you furrowing your forehead? Sit with that and attempt to understand what it is that you're feeling. Oh, I'm angry. Angry is a secondary emotion. What caused you to become angry? And a number of men will go into disrespect. Okay, so I want you to reframe that. Why did you feel disrespected? Did somebody do something or say something to hurt you? And that's because a number of men process hurt as disrespect. Ooh. Why? Because you are supposed to be my peace. You are supposed to be my safety. Why are you causing me internal chaos? This hurts. This reminds me of a period of time where I was unable to defend myself. Now that I'm able to defend myself, I'm going to push back against what it is that you're saying. Right. So for a number of men, I asked them, tell me about when you were younger, right? Because what I'm beginning to recognize,
So men process emotions differently. Sometimes anger is a reaction, a response to how they're feeling. If they're feeling disrespected, or maybe they're feeling a level of disrespect because of an emotion they're feeling is not being heard and things. Therapy is about processing your emotions. They don't tell you how to feel or what to feel. They do give you tools to navigate through your feelings, but just talking it out and making sense out of it, because by the time you're done, you answer your own question. So they have that skill set to be able to get you through it. For those of you who kind of think of therapy as taboo and think they're just trying to be in your business, it's a little, it's not that evasive as you may think it is. But again, just thinking about men's mental health month, one of the main things I definitely want to speak to people, because that's all I've been hearing all week, is prostate cancer. People being diagnosed with prostate cancer. And it's just like, wow, what is going on? What is going on? Like, am I just at that age? Where this is just what it is? You start knowing people in your age group that, the body starts to break down, just like a vehicle. So mental health is important. And physical health is important. I just want to share the thoughts of GB, who's in the chat on YouTube. Thank you so much for sharing. I've learned through experience regarding therapy, I'm more receptive and comfortable speaking with a therapist who goes outside of the textbook and genuinely makes an open-minded attempt to understand. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. When I'm looking up for therapists too, so you don't have a preference, male or female, I'm guessing. But when I'm looking for a therapist, I like, to see their biography. I want to see their background, what life experiences they had. Because I need someone who can understand where I'm coming from. They can pick up what I'm putting down and not be looking at me like I'm strange. You know what I'm saying? So I definitely agree with you. We have our textbook. We have to understand how the brain works and, how people process things. But outside of that, just a real conversation, based on life experiences is what I look forward to. I definitely want to be with somebody, have a conversation with someone who can relate to what I'm talking to. Even just going to a regular doctor, my gynecologist, for example. I want someone who's there for me and not looking at me like I got two heads when I start telling them some strange things. You know what I'm saying? But anyways, just getting back to prostate cancer, over 313,000 cases are expected to be diagnosed in this year, 2025. It's the second leading cause of cancer deaths in men, the highest for Black men and older men as well. But here's the good news: most men do not die from it. So getting the early detection can get you on the path of healing, and that's what's important, right? Quality of life and living out your days. Not having your time cut off short because you just neglecting yourself, trying to take care of your family and other things and other people. Go get checked out, and it's just a part of life. Going to therapy, sometimes they may diagnose medications. Now, I'm no doctor or anything, but I just want to stress that before you're diagnosed or prescribed anything, to do the research, Google, get more information, because some of these medications might not be for you. Some of them do have give you suicidal ideologies. And although some people do need them or it does help them, it's not always the right way to go. And I just want to put that in there too. But on a lighter note, talking about men and mental health, how women, we call each other, we say, I love you. We chat about things, we hug. Women, we're very affectionate towards each other. Men, not so much. And I say that in general because around me, the men that I know, they're very affectionate. I say they have romances going on. It's, I love you when they see each other. I love you when they leave. During conversations, they're just bigging each other up, talking about positive things and just showing gratitude to each other, and talking about things that matter. And I love it because I think it's so important that men have those type of relationships with a trusted person, be it a friend or a family member. So I don't see that so much, but I do understand it because throughout life, you didn't see that. I didn't see my father being like affectionate with other men, or other men being affectionate outside of my circle. So I get it, but there's this there's this good night challenge going on. Y'all heard about this good night challenge? So this is hilarious, and I was just checking it out. So basically, what it is men calling other men to say good night and getting their response. How are you reacting? Any brothers out there? Any men out there calling they people, they brothers, they cousins, they friends? And saying good night, and how's that working out for you? How are they responding to you saying good night to them? I'm just curious to know. So I have one clip I want to share, and this is Big Boy, who was calling his friends. GB said, hell no. That's the consensus. I have a lot of them, clips I listened to, but since they used, the brothers was using the N-word so much, I couldn't play them. But they was like, man, what you mean good night? What the hell? What the hell? Why you calling me to say good night? Like they was not with it. So anyway, this is Big Boy. If you guys don't know, he's a popular radio personality. He called a few people. Let me see who he called first. One of the people he called. So I'm gonna play a few of his clips of him calling people. I think the first one. Let me see who the first one is.
OT is Big Boy.
Oh, what's up with it?
Man, maintain. It's the new number right here, bro.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I answered the phone, right?
Hell yeah, man. So what you up to, bro?
Hey, what's going on? I'm chilling.
Man.
I'm chilling. I just left this bar.
Yes, sir. Yeah, man. No, I ain't mad at you, bro. I'm just calling to tell you good night, man.
Man, what the
No, I'm just calling. We get up early in the morning, man, so I was just calling to tell you good night. I'm about to shut it down.
Yeah, I ain't gonna lie. This sound crazy as hell, man.
No, I was just calling to tell you. No, brother tired, man, so I'll just call to say good night.
What the? Man, what the fuck is you? Man.
No, I'm about to shut it. I'm about to shut it down.
You don't call my phone and say that?
No, I'm just calling to say good night, man. I'm about to go to sleep. I just want to say nighty night.
Nighty night.
Man, get off my.
He hung up on him. I think the next one he's calling Exhibit now. Big Boy's calling Exhibit to say goodnight.
Yo.
Exhibit.
What up, big?
What's up, my brother? How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. What you got going?
Man, I was just calling to tell you good night, man. Nah, I'm about to go to sleep, X. So I'll just call him. Okay. Nah, I'm just calling to tell you nighty night.
All right. Good night, man.
Yeah, what you doing, man? No, I'm about to nod out, man.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, so good night, man.
Good night, big.
Nighty night, bro.
Nighty night.
Sleep tight.
So he made several other phone calls. Well, how would you react as a man if somebody called you and said they were just calling to say goodnight? I mean, as women, we call our loved one. I would call my girlfriend and say, I'm just saying goodnight. You know, we say that at the end of our conversations. Good night. I'll talk to you in the morning. But is it awkward for a man to call somebody and say goodnight? These brothers like, why are you calling me saying goodnight? I have another one where there was this guy, by his voice, you would think that he was melanated. He says that he's a pastor, but he also did the same thing, but he's actually a white guy. And he called his people to say goodnight as well. So I just want to get you guys, get another take from another perspective.
So weird, man.
I'm calling him now.
Hello?
Hey, what's up, man?
What's up?
Hey, we're getting ready for bed. I was just calling to tell you good night, bro.
Good night, bro.
Yeah, man. I was just thinking about you. Want to tell you good night, man.
Why you playing?
All right, love you, bro.
I love you too, bro.
All right, see. I can't do it without laughing. Hello? All right, there you go. Hey, man. What are you up to?
Calling his best friend.
Not much.
All right. Oh, okay. Sorry to interrupt. We're about to go to bed, and I was just calling to tell you I love you and good night.
Okay, I love you.
All right. All right, see you, man.
I'd see you.
All right. I just love you, man. All right, good night.
Is everything okay?
Yeah, man, I was just telling you good night, man. I was thinking about you.
Okay. Just make sure you're not getting murdered or something.
Nah, man. Just good night, man. I was just thinking about you.
So you're not getting murdered?
Nah, man.
So
All right, love you, bro.
All right, love you, buddy.
All right, see you.
All right.
So what's wrong with that? Y'all would have chat to my nah. Like, what would you do? How would you react if somebody that you know and love called you and said goodnight? Like the mirror just like, is everything okay? Like, ain't nobody hurting you? What's going on? Like, what you all right? Did you get a diagnosis? What's going on? I just thought that was funny. It's just funny. You know, I wouldn't think nothing of it. If somebody, you know, my loved one called me, unless I hadn't talked to him in a while, then I'd be like, okay, what's going on? You're all right? But normally, you know, women, we talk to each other like that. So I just thought that was hilarious. And, you know, just tickled me to see how men respond. And but yeah, it got worse because they was getting cussed out in a lot of the clips. So if you haven't been following that challenge, or maybe try it, you know what I'm saying? Do it with your kids. You got male children, see how they do it. They were like, what the hell? But you know, especially these teenagers, they don't like to be mushy. Don't try to be mushy with them. Don't even try to kiss them. Shoot, I remember my child was in kindergarten. I tried to give him a kiss at the bus stop, and he ducking in the seat. I'm like, they mamas kissed him before they left. What's wrong? What's wrong with you? But anyway, it's so funny. Yeah, men and boys, they're a little different than us ladies and girls. So it is what it is. But today in history, we'll get into a little history. Y'all we're gonna get into a little bit of Diddy. We're gonna get into a little bit of Diddy. We're gonna talk about you know, some other things that are going on. I want to get into some trades too. I want to talk about trades versus college. I want to get into just you know, some of the things that there's just so much going on. We can't get into it all, and I really don't want to get into. I want to talk about how they canceled or they tried to cancel Job Corps as well. Highlight that the boycott of Dollar General. Maybe we'll get into the tariffs. I'm not sure, but we'll see how the time flows. As I did say, I was going to try to do it early, but here we go. But yeah, today in history, if you guys remember this story, James Byrd Jr., if you guys remember his name, a black man on June 7th of 1998, it was a crime that shocked the nation. It led to a stronger state and federal hate crime laws. So James Byrd Jr., he was 49 years old at the time that he was hooked up and chained to the back of a pickup truck by some white men and dragged to his death. His body was, he was decapitated. Um, and they just kept driving with him just like that. And they dragged him to his death in Jasper, Texas. So two of the white men were later sentenced to death and executed for the crime. And the third was sentenced to life in prison. And, it's just like, damn, it's like, that's what, hate, just hating for no reason. You know what I'm saying? And what kind of devil or demon must you be to do something like that to a person and have no conscience? Like, you lack conscience, you lack a soul. I can't imagine. Yeah, it's just crazy. But also on this date, June, well, actually, this was June 3rd, and I wasn't with you guys, but I just really wanted to highlight this and talk about this for a minute, if you don't mind. This was back in 1919. On June 3rd, actually, Liberty Life Insurance Company was the first legal reserve company organized by Blacks in the North, and it was incorporated. The Supreme Court ruling of Irene Morgan versus Commonwealth of Virginia. So I encourage you guys to look more into that. And this case banned segregation in interstate bus travel. But the significance of this story is that it was a Black-owned insurance company that was particularly created because obviously Black people couldn't get, proper representation and, policies, because they were Black with white companies. So that's what you do. You do for self, right? When people that live in the same country as you discriminate against you and choose not to serve you equally, then you just build your own. We don't need a seat at the table. We'll build our own table. And so I thought that was very significant, but it also sent me down a rabbit hole just to give more information on, life insurance and the history of life insurance. But just to speak more about Liberty Life Insurance, there were three top Black insurance companies back in the early 1900s, which were Supreme Life, Liberty Life, and Northeastern Life, and they merged in 1929. But Supreme Liberty Life Insurance Company, they established in 1919 along with a couple of the other Black-owned insurance companies. And again, for Supreme Life Insurance, the company, by 1925, the company had written more than 5 million in insurance policies and opened branch offices in Michigan, Kentucky, Missouri, and Washington, D.C. It was one of the few Black insurance companies to survive the Great Depression. After the Great Depression, Supreme Life expanded into one of the nation's largest minority insurance companies. In 1960, the National Insurance Association, NIA, had 46 members. The 46 insurance companies across the nation were owned and operated by African-American businessmen. Collectively, they had $1.65, I said $1.65, 1.65 trillion. No, that's not a typo. In insurance policies in force, the Supreme Life Insurance Company of America was the third largest Black life insurance company in the nation at the time. In 1960, NIA was holding 300 million in assets. So currently, if you guys aren't aware, in Chicago, African-American operated insurance companies include Insurance Brokers, Inc., which operates in Chicago, their home branch offices at locations on both Chicago South and North Side. So Insurance Brokers were founded by the Jamaican-born businessman and a longtime Chicago native, Herbert Witter. It offers diverse policies in Florida, Georgia, Illinois, Indiana, Pennsylvania, and the W.A. George Insurance Agency is also a Black-owned and operated bond insurance company in Chicago and was established in 1972 by Mercedes George. Now, while the original NIA organization no longer exists, the National African American Insurance Association currently operates as a national association for Blacks in the insurance business, and the Chicago chapter of the NAIA is quite active. So the climate that we're in today, a lot of things are being taken away from us by way of education, jobs, training. We're going to get into Job Corps. All of these things are being taken away to try to disable the progress of, Black people or people of color in particular, and just people who aren't wealthy or rich. And so this is just to let you, just to give you an idea that we've always survived. We've always been able to take lemons and make lemonade. When things were extracted, we poured back into our communities and gave each other what was needed. And so, I want to big up these insurance companies because, they came about in a time where we needed insurance. We talk about generational wealth and what life insurance and just having protections of your property matters. So, I want to big them up. Shout out to Shantos in the YouTube who says, Hola, hola, ¿cómo estás? Buenos tardes. Buenos tardes. Yeah, so just to give you a little history though, if you guys do not know, insurance was actually here in the United States, insurance was actually created for the benefit of those who own slaves. So they created insurance as a protection for those who stole people, brought them here, and needed some protections in the event that these people that they stole were not able to produce the income that they needed by way of death or sickness or disability or whatever the situation may have been. Insurance was created to protect their property. Remember, according to the Constitution, men, Black Africans were not considered human. They were considered the 3/4 human. And that was only just to be able to be counted in the voting system, as we know for the Electoral College. And even, I always think about people who are incarcerated. You may not be a resident of Nevada, but you may be incarcerated in Nevada. So Nevada gets benefits from you being incarcerated, and you're counted as a Nevadan, a citizen here. And so that was the same thing they did to Africans back in the day. They were not considered human, only to a certain degree in order to be counted for more representation for the white man here in the United States in their state. But yes, insurance was created to protect property, said property, which was the Black African man and African woman and child. And this is an interesting article that I read from Black Enterprise. It came out in June of 2024, and it's called Once Upon a Time, Enslaved Africans Were an Insurance Commodity. So prior to the mid-19th century, insurance companies had issued policies mostly confined to merchants who were transporting their captive human cargo. Due to treacherous nature of the Middle Passage journey, there was a high chance for the loss of life, which translated into a loss of profit for slave ship owners, obviously. But once the transatlantic slave trade was made illegal through an act of Congress in 1808, insurance companies turned their focus to enslaved populations already in the U.S. as appraisal values of Black lives began to rise. Okay. Enslaved people were considered liquid capital, able to be traded, sold, and rented as their enslavers saw fit. And before there was renter's insurance, as we know it, because now if you're even living in an apartment or renting a house, you can, for those who own, yes, there's homeowners insurance, but if you're renting, you can also get renter's insurance as well to protect your property in the event of a fire or water damage or theft. But prior to that, here in current times, renter's insurance was created to for the benefit of those who own slaves. And before the renters, what they would do is the owners rented out or leased out those who were enslaved for labor to companies and collected the income without having to supply food, housing, and clothing. So rental policies were often year to year, and so too were the insurance policies. So they would get insurance policies out on those that they leased out to other people for work. Okay. So there's a history. It's so important for us to know and understand our history, because if we don't know how we came to this point, we don't understand why we're here and what could happen next. So yes, so there was or slavery insurance for leasing out your slaves, and then there was protection in the event of their deaths or demise or whatever unfortunate situations may have happened that caused them not to be able to generate income. So not only could they generate income through their labor, but their existence caused them to appreciate in their value until their mid-30s. So they were considered highly valuable up until their mid-30s. And then the enslaved individuals that were considered skilled, whether as a craftsman, a boatman, or a sawmill worker, could be valued up to 3 times the price of an average field hand. So someone who just maybe picked cotton, or whatever they did, cooks, breastfed the white woman's baby because she didn't want to breastfeed her own baby, whatever she did. Um, if you had other skills that were considered more valuable, then your price went up. As you know, the value of you being um, covered. So it's so interesting when you think about the cost and the prices and the value that they put on humans. Um, enslaved people were enslaved for, I mean, from $700 to $1,000 on average. For enslaved men who would otherwise be considered unskilled, by the time they were in their mid to late 20s, were valued anywhere from 700 again to 1,000 on average, according to appraisal values. Okay, these are humans we're talking about, Black African humans. This sum would be comparable to contemporary funds needed to purchase a starter car or to put down a down payment on a basic home. Today that would range from 23,000 to 36,000 in today's money. That's what their value was. Companies limited the amount for which a slave could be insured, as well as the length of policy terms, 4 to 5 years for slaves ages 10 to 60 years old, while whites could purchase policies for life at a set annual premium. Slaves, those who were enslaved, were not insured for their full value. To protect themselves from paying out more than necessary, companies refused to issue policies worth more than $800 or 2/3 or 3/4 of the appraised value of an enslaved person. So the North Carolina Mutual Company included a stipulation that said, in case the said slave shall die for want of proper medical or personal attendance, this policy shall be void. So they did not cover any person enslaved that died by suicide, meaning, nah, baby, I ain't gonna be able to do it. And, they went ahead and took themselves out of the equation. So again, that was the North Carolina Mutual Company. That was an insurance company that would cover enslaved people. For their owners at the time. Insurance companies also prohibited the free movement of insured slaves from region to region and charged extra premiums for dangerous jobs while requiring reputable medical doctors to examine individuals prior to policy approvals. When I was reading this initially, I thought about football. I thought about boxing. I thought about how, there's a whole set up to where people are evaluated based on their talents. There's a price put on them, and then these doctors come in and they make sure that they are up to par. They kind of just, the thought triggered in my mind. And so I thought about that as well. So those doctors also receive fees for their services ranging from 15 cents to $2 per exam. Okay. Enslaved individuals could be denied coverage for having chronic diseases, being of unsound mind, or for pregnancy. Okay. Yeah, because they thought that, women with pregnancy were high risk because a lot of women did die in childbirth. And if you survived it, you went right back into the field immediately. You didn't get 6 weeks or how like they do in the UK. You didn't get a year off. Enslaved people were used in coal mines as well. So it was kind of prompted through, some people just think that those who were enslaved just worked to pick cotton. But again, they had other trades. Like when we say that the Black man and woman built this country, they built the White House. Literally, it's not a joke. It's not being sarcastic. It's a fact. They use free labor to build this country from the ground up, be it from crops, be it from physical structures, through the education system. Did we have advantages? Did we benefit from it? No, but we built this city, not on rock and roll, though. We did not build this city on rock and roll. Say you don't know me. Y'all know that song? Or recognize my face? Okay, anyway. So yeah, people, and definitely, coal mines, you had y'all's president, telling the poorly educated that he was bringing back the coal mines, and you had people saying, yeah, with they missing teeth and cheering and it's like, really, you want to go back to the coal mine? Do you realize that will be the cause of your demise? You will have lung disease. Like, these people who were enslaved worked in here, and of course they definitely needed the protections. The owners needed the protection because they knew that these, after working in these coal mines sun up, sundown, day in and day out, that they would not live long. And so they needed reimbursement for any losses, right? But that was one of the other reasons why insurance was created for the enslaved. Again, that's what caused insurance to become something here in the United States, having slaves. And starting at about the age of 32 for whites, premiums increased by 5 cents per plan year to year. So if you were a white man in particular at the age of 32, your premium would increase by 5 cents per plan year to year. By your 30s as a white man, the premiums were for a full dollar, more than those for insuring an enslaved person even a decade younger. Okay. So enslaved people never could meet that value. Does it rhyme with what's going on right now in time when we think about our insurance policies and how the discrimination factors and how we don't get the same coverage that a white man or woman would get? Most insurance companies prefer to insure enslaved people in the prime of their health, typically during late adolescence to young adulthood. Slaveholders, when considering the extra expense of purchasing insurance, would most likely insure men over women. Women were not only susceptible to higher mortality rates due to childbirth, but many enslavers also viewed them as more easily replaceable because of their value was often tied to their reproductive capacity. So, you can die, but you're going to shoot out babies, maybe some twins, maybe some triplets, but, you're going to make babies. So if you go, that's fine, basically, is what they're saying. So there's a book, as Diana Ramey is the author, Diana Ramey Berry's book, The Price for Their Pound of Flesh Shows. It's called The Price for Their Pound of Flesh Shows. Author Diana Ramey Berry. If you want to read more about insurance and how they use insurance for generational wealth on the backs of the enslaved. In 1860 alone, there were almost 4 million enslaved people in the United States. At any one, there were more Africans here than there were white people. That's why, again, they had to be counted in order to get more representation in the Congress. Because again, they were just like you think about how people breed dogs. That's how they bred Africans. They just kept it going. And so there was more black people here than there were actual the white men and the Native Americans, of course. They wiped them out for the most part. So there were more than 4 million enslaved people here in the United States in the late 1860s. At one point in time, there would likely have been only a few hundred policies on enslaved people per year. Several $1 million were historically stored on life insurance policies. So keep in mind that these slave owners couldn't afford the policies. Remember, the policies were expensive to cover a black man, woman, or child. So only 100 of them were reportedly amongst the millions who were actually enslaved. A lot of them, they couldn't have the coverage. They couldn't afford it. Policies on enslaved laborers tended to have higher premiums, as stated, as many companies went bankrupt due to heavy losses and insurance claims related to death from disease. So the sudden end to slavery meant that these companies could no longer collect premiums or fulfill their obligations under the policies, leading to potential disputes and financial instability. So the end of slavery forced insurance companies to reassess their business models and reputations. This likely involved diversifying their policy offering and focus on other areas of life and property insurance. Okay. So, it goes on and on because there's still generational wealth. These people who did collect money, they use that money to pay into other institutions, to pay into other things they had going on. And to this day, they benefited from life insurance. They benefited from free labor. And in California, there have been a few studies. There's been a few states that have done studies to try to dig up those insurance companies and see who actually benefited from policies of those who were enslaved. And so there's not a lot of records, but there was a study done in California also. But since 2004, several states have required the disclosure of their ties to slavery, producing documents from their archives and former records beyond being asked, with making their archives and records public. There does not appear to have been much further action, however, taken to provide reparation for those whose ancestors were formerly enslaved. So they have the studies, going back to the governor, I want to say Jersey, but I know it's not, but the recent governor who said no more studies. I'm vetoing any further studies. Was it Jersey? Anyways, was it Maryland? I think it was Maryland. So this governor, black man, said no more studies. And like I said, I feel what he's saying. There's studies been done already. So basically, at this point, we know the damage. We see the damage. We have the numbers. We have the data. What do we do to reimburse? How do we correct the wrongs that these people, who they call the forefathers, you know, put on these people, that's caused them not to have generational wealth, that set them back so far behind, and they continue to do it. So on September 30th of 2000, this is a California governor, Gray Davis of California, signed two bills relating to slave insurance. One bill was written by a former California state senator, Tom Hayden. The California legislator found that, number one, insurance policies from the slavery era have been discovered and archived of several insurance companies, documented insurance coverage for slaveholders for damage to or death of their slaves, issued by the predecessor insurance firm. These documents provide the first evidence of ill-gotten profits from slavery, which profits in capitalized insurance, in part, that capitalized insurers whose successors remain in existence today. So I just want to read that again so you guys can understand when you hear people talk about reparations and what is owed to people who did everything to make it possible for the wealthy to be wealthy. Insurance policies from the slavery era have been discovered in the archive of several insurance companies, documenting insurance coverage for slaveholders for damage or death of their slaves, issued by a predecessor insurance firm. These documents provide the first evidence of ill-gotten profits from slavery, which profits in part capitalized insurers whose successors remain in existence today. So some of us may even be, have homeowners, renters, car, life insurance through some of these people who enslaved our ancestors to this day, because they're still in business. They're still rocking and rolling thanks to slavery. It's the truth. It's just what it is. We're not making this up. It's a fact. So the California Insurance Commissioner has the power to request slave insurance policies from insurance companies during business in California. So that's what this whole bill was about. Like I said, they put it on the books that we have the right to investigate it, but what are they going to do about it? What are they doing about it? There was also a second bill in California, which is also called UC Slavery, a colloquium bill, Senate Bill 111737, allows the University of California the option to hold conference on economics of slavery. Important organizations such as Jesse Jackson's Rainbow Push and the NAACP supported these bills. So in California and other states, they have made calls to verify any documents that show profits from slavery on the part of capitalized insurers whose successors remain in existence today. So that's part of the reparations study, right? You start digging up the data, you start finding out how did these existing companies benefit from free labor, benefit from insurance policies, all of those things. And then they put it into a pile and investigate what damage did that do to the African people and to the descendants here today. And so that's the whole point of doing a study, a reparations study. So at least they've done that. At least they've made it possible to even do the research, because, you have Congress who will try to shoot it down every time. That's what your former Vice President Kamala Harris was saying that she would do. She would definitely open it up so that there can be a study done to just see what all has happened on the backs of those who were enslaved that benefit corporations and institutions today. So part of the Governor Davis bill included, again, to obtain information, to pick up records. But all of this that they did basically is just giving them access, saying we can lawfully say to any existing insurance company, let us see your history. Let us see records back in the 1800s, who had policies that cover those who were enslaved. We want to have those records on file. Lots of those records were damaged. They said 85% of those policies were damaged. Scholars have noted that at least 1,300 antebellum era policies have been found in the archives of the world's largest insurance companies, and evidence suggests that, again, 85% of these policy records have been lost. So what does that mean for our understanding of the full scope of insurance companies' involvement in perpetuating slavery? The significant loss of record means that there is that the full extent of the insurance company's involvement in slavery is likely much greater than what the current evidence shows. So the surviving records are only a fraction of the total number of policies that were likely issued. The incomplete historical record suggests that many more enslaved individuals were insured, and insurance companies played a more extensive role in the economic mechanism that sustained the profit from slavery. So when I was reading that they've noticed that during the antebellum era, it reminded me of the movie Antebellum, which starred who was that, Janelle Monáe. And so when the movie first came up, I was like, antebellum. That word's not familiar to me. So I looked it up. So for those of you who may not know, that at the time when the movie came out, I wasn't familiar with the term myself. Antebellum, that's ANTEBELLUM, means occurring or existing before a particular war, in this case, before the American Civil War. Yes, GB said they're tampering. Yeah, they're tampering with evidence. So they're reducing it. And that's what they're going to tell us when they do this research. Oh, there was only 1,300 policies. Yeah, there wasn't the majority of the people who own people didn't have these policies. So the majority of our ancestors weren't affected by these policies. You know what I'm saying? They're going to try to play it down. So of course, they definitely tamper with evidence. They do it now. They did it then. This is how these particular people have always stayed ahead, by not playing by the rules. They will write the rules, but then the rules are missing when it comes to them. They write themselves out of the rules. That's why you have a president who has 6 bankruptcies, because rich, wealthy men create laws that benefit them. Yeah, everybody else needs to pay their fair share, but when it comes to them, they can just hit reset. Play the game Monopoly, you'll understand it. So yeah, they definitely knew what they were doing when they did that. I'm going to go back and watch that movie too again, just to get a better understanding, because Antebellum was basically about a successful author who finds herself trapped in a horrifying reality and must uncover a mind-bending mystery before it's too late. So she was trapped in a time before her. And yeah, I kind of went to sleep on that movie. But there are existing insurance companies right now. Liberty Mutual, that was one that had slave policies. Baltimore Life Insurance Company, North Carolina Mutual Company. You can look them up. You can look up and see who had held policies back then and learn more about it. So that's a little history. I want to take a little time to talk about that and just, highlight that, because again, history is important, even though they're trying to get rid of it and bury it. You can see why. I mean, maybe it's embarrassing, but it's okay. If these are your ancestors that did these things and it's embarrassing and shameful, then, and you don't like it, then this is an opportunity to change it, speak out, and make it so that people that were damaged by this are repaired monetarily. And, when I think about reparations, I say there shouldn't be any interest for Black men and women, those who are descendants of the enslaved. We need to get a head start. We've been set back for a very, very long time. And so there's a big wealth gap because of, your ancestors on the other side, them other people, what they did to our ancestors. So take away interest rates. But right now what they do, just by way of being Black, whether you have a good credit score or not, they'll use your skin color to determine your interest rate, how much you'll pay for a home, what community you'll live in. They should also, education should be free. There should be monetary payments made. You think about places in Alaska where there's oil. Anyone who's an Alaskan citizen gets a check, because that state provides dividends to those people, because everybody is benefiting from having oil. It's a fruitful land, and so the money belongs to the entire state. And so, yes, we should have monetary money. We should have money. We should have our own land. So some of these states need to go to us. They say we 13% of the population. Give us enough land to house our 13, 14% of the population, and we'll build our own country, and y'all leave us alone. We're going to build a wall. We really would need to build a wall to keep you guys out, because y'all don't know how to drink y'all water and mind y'all business, and a fireproof wall, because y'all like to set stuff on fire and just destroy stuff. So reparations is a thing that is owed to the descendants of Africans. You can't tell me any other way. Anyone who says that it's not, they're delusional, they're hateful, and yeah, they need to work on themselves. Also, I want to get into trade, because, we know that college is getting more and more expensive, for those of you who do need, because some things you do need to go to school for, right? Medical, if you want legal, depending on what you want to, what kind of career you want to have, you're going to need a certain level of education that may require college. And instead of spending all that money, I would say start off at a community college and then go to a 4-year university. But for all things, all jobs, all careers aren't necessarily, you don't have to be college bound. And so I want to encourage people not to always focus on putting all that money into college, because this current administration wants you to pay back all of that money, even though they're giving $8 million a day to Elon Musk, even though they're making people at a lower tax bracket under a few $100,000 pay more, and the wealthy pay less, and they're giving them corporate welfare. They don't want the tax-paying citizens who pay into these systems to be able to provide corporate welfare and whatever subsidies the country gets. They don't want those particular people who are the majority to have access to that. They don't want us to have free education. They don't want us to be able to have some supplemental income if we're not making enough. Mind you, rent goes up, housing goes up, everything goes up, food goes up, but wages don't go up. And you have Congress fighting to prevent that. And you have people that are trying to justify why they don't want to increase the minimum wage. But how is it legal for you to increase the cost of living and not increase your earnings? Like, what do they do that? How does that make sense? Make it make sense. Make it make sense. And now they're trying to take away something that's benefited so many thousands, if not millions, of young people from the ages of 16 to 24 by defunding Job Corps. Why would you defund Job Corps? Like, you building more prisons, you want to kidnap people and expedite them to another country and pay other countries to house them. You want to do all the things that would help rich people stay rich, because people invest in private prisons and things of that nature. You want to do all of these things. You want to defund education. You want people to pay back their loans. I mean, I just listed a bunch of things. And then you take away opportunities that these kids between 16 and 24 wouldn't have, where they have an opportunity to turn their lives around. You don't know what kind of homes people are coming from. Some of us, we came from pretty decent homes. We had wholesome families, but some people, I've seen it. I bear witness to people that came from some trifling homes. I even knew a lady who had a daughter. I think she was like just turning 16, and she acted more masculine. So you know how it goes, even with boys. If they act a little feminine, he gonna be a little sweet. And if it's a girl, she gonna be a little butch. And so in this case, this girl was more gravitating towards other girls. And so her mother actually rented her a hotel room and wanted her to be de-virginized by a man. And I'm just using that example just to say a male, to say that some people ain't being raised by proper parents. So they being thrown out into the world, released into the streets with whatever they were raised with. Okay, whatever they were raised with. Shout out to GB, who says, I don't have the patience for college. I dropped out. However, learning a trade proved to be the best thing for me. Indeed. Listen, when I was in high school, that's all my dad told me. You need to learn a trade. And here in Las Vegas, we had VOTEC. I know they have vocational schools all over, but in high school out here in Las Vegas, it was VOTEC. So a lot of my friends and family went there for like to be a phlebotomist in the medical field. So you go right out of school with a certificate and you can get a job, right? A barber, nail technician, hairstylist, like all of these trades. You could go to school to learn a trade, so you could be set when you got out of school, because when you turn 18, you have to make your own money. Now you're responsible for yourself. You can go to jail at the age of 18. You got to be able to bail yourself out. So you need a job. Okay. So, there was access to, there was a sense of a love for the American citizens, where they wanted to see us succeed. Even when I was in school, we had shop. So you learned carpentry, home ec. Like the boys pulled up because they knew we had cookies on Friday and the girls was cute. So they was in there letting us cook for them. But I learned how to sew, just simple hemming. I don't really like to sew to this day, but I know how. I know how to use a sewing machine. I learned how to type in school. That benefited me right out of school, being able to type, 50, 60 words per minute. I don't remember what my typing skill set was, but having that skill set right out of school put me right into a position where I can make a decent living, working as a receptionist or secretary, or the different jobs that I, fulfilled. You had trade, even music. So you learn how to read music and write music in school, different instruments. You were exposed to so many different things that have been taken out of school. I mean, not to say civics, yeah, even civics. So all of these things are being taken away because the people that are in power really, they want to go back to the 1800s. They want to go back from the 1600s to the 1800s, where slavery was the way to go. They didn't want you to be educated. They just wanted free labor. And so, if you can't see what's happening, they're chipping away at our freedoms, at our ability to be able to take care of ourselves. It's happening. It's happening before our very eyes. And defunding Job Corps is just another way that they're doing this. Shout out to Tiffany. Thank you for joining me on Facebook, who says great topics for conversation. I appreciate you. Yes, she said it's also predatory destruction. Yes. Listen, I was pouring a gallon into a quart and you just summed it up. Thank you. Yeah, okay. So what she said, yeah, it's predatory destruction. So for those of you who may not know, Job Corps is the nation's most successful career preparation program for at-risk young adults between the ages of 16 and 24. The 126 Job Corps campuses in all 50 states have helped nearly 3 million disadvantaged young Americans complete their high school education and transition into higher education and a gainful career or military service. The Job Corps was originally designed by a task force established by a labor secretary, Willard Wirtz. The program was created in 1964 as part of President Lyndon B. Johnson's War on Poverty and Great Society domestic reforms. When certain programs were put into effect, subsidies like SNAP, we called food stamps back then. Y'all remember them big old coupons? And you was embarrassed if y'all knew. Listen, we had food stamps, and I used to be ducking my head because they were stamping all of them. Boom, boom. That was so embarrassing as a kid. When you think about food stamps and Medicaid, when you think about all the subsidies that were put into place, they try to attach those to people of color and say it's a Black thing. They had the welfare queen back when Reagan was president, and they used this woman who wore the fur coat and dressed nice. Maybe she had a Benz and said, "Oh, this lady collects subsidies. She collects food stamps. She collects welfare," and they use that as a way to tell people who were probably Republican leaning at that time that this is why we don't need to have these subsidies, because these Black people, they just take advantage. Remember, these are our tax dollars, however it happens, taking advantage or not. It's not their money. It's our tax dollars are being allocated to people who are in need. And the majority of people do not take advantage of these subsidies. But when these subsidies went into effect, initially, food stamps went into effect because of a war. I think it was World War I, where the people, white men and women, were so poor. The white men were so skinny and frail that they weren't in a position to be able to fight a war. So they had to implement programs and subsidies so that these men could eat and be strong to be able to fight these wars. The benefits excluded domestic workers. So basically, most blue collar people, in that time, we were mainly sharecroppers. Our people were sharecroppers, domestic workers. They clean these white people's houses. They didn't have access to white collar jobs in a way that we have more so today. So the majority of us couldn't even get these benefits. So these benefits, these subsidies were put into place for poor white people. We had to fight to have access to it. And we wasn't begging for a hand up. Our money was being allocated to everybody else. Y'all taking our taxation without representation. You were taking our money and allocating it to the white community and telling us, hell to the no, pull yourselves up by your bootstraps. And by the way, even, it's just so much I can say when I think about this, and so don't let people make you feel like, it's a bad thing because you have access to your tax dollars in a way in which you need them to be able to feed your family. They're trying to take away Head Start, free lunch program. That was put into effect by the Black Panther Party. These are people that they call the biggest threat. The FBI director at that time, that the Black Panther movement was at its highest peak, just trying to protect their community. That's, the gangs that we knew before they started just getting mad about colors and fighting over land that didn't belong to them and killing over land that didn't belong to them, drug wars. These people implemented the free lunch program that later on Hillary Clinton implemented into the country statewide, free lunch program. They want to take these things away. Meals on Wheels. These are things that benefit the senior citizens who can't get out and go get their own food. probably have no family, no one to look out for them. They don't want people to pull up to their street. I remember growing up in a project and there was a Meals on Wheels program that would come by and feed the community. Like, how evil must you be? How evil must you be to take away these programs from people and say you're trying to save money? Meanwhile, you're giving multi-millions on a daily basis, our tax dollars, to non-citizens, to this African Elon. Okay. Thank you, Tiffany, for continuing to add to the conversation. She says the largest demographic that benefits from welfare are white people. Yes, it's a fact. Go look it up for yourself. This is a fact, period. Yes. So it's false narrative marketing for racial oppression. No worries. The truth is coming out. Yes, it is. The truth is coming out. And that's why they're fighting overtime to try to bury the truth, because they understand the tides are turning. So they're burning books. They're calling it a woke era, woke people. Like, who sleeps? I never sleep, because sleep is the cousin of death. I stay woke. You know what I'm saying? We recharge our batteries, but we don't sleep, baby. But why? That's why they're fighting. They're at war with people who understand the history and what they're doing, and they don't want us to be aware of what they're doing, because, again, they want to take us back to that 16 to 1800 period where they had free labor. They could make free labor. If everybody's stupid and you don't have any subsidies or any access to income, you don't have any trades. You don't know how to build a house. You don't know how to fix plumbing. You don't know how to install electrical. You don't know how to fix a car. You don't know how to all of the things that you don't need to go to college for. You just need certain certificates. All of these things, if you don't have a way to have your own side hustle, to make your own money, to be able to paint, to be able to lay tile or whatever it is you do, and you're depending on this government, then you they bitch, basically. Tiffany goes on to add that America is a system regulated by a social security number. Yes, and that social security number tells us your ethnicity as well. They are at war with themselves, indeed, but mainly with us. They are definitely at war with us, because the minority rule over the majority. And there's a book called As a Man Thinketh, and one of the quotes I always think about to this day, I can't remember when it came out, was it the 80s or the 70s? There's also As a Woman Thinketh. But As a Man Thinketh, there's a quote in the book that says, "Don't hate the oppressor, hate the oppressed," because the oppressed people are the majority. If we all come together, all shades, all sexual orientations, all ethnicities, if we all come together, we can fight against the minority. But instead, we bow down to this, some of us, and we allow them to give it to us with no Vaseline. It's just a reality. But yeah, so this was put into effect, again, by Lyndon B. Johnson, who was also a Democrat in 1964, who signed in the Civil Rights Act of 1964. And mind you, during 1964, it was reversed. So Democrat was mostly like a Republican mindset, and Republican was more like a Democrat. Back then, for the most part, there was a time when Black people could only, if they could vote, they could only vote Republican. And again, at the time, the Black man, woman, and child interests were in line with the Republican Party. But of course, once we got the Civil Rights Act and things started changing, we got pushed out of there, because the KKK and a lot of other things happened. So we changed parties. So there's a saying that also says, in politics, there are no permanent friends, there are no permanent enemies, there's only permanent interests. So when people try to wag their finger at you, it's like, oh, y'all just vote Democrat because you Black. No, we vote our interests. And we have to play the cards that's dealt with us, and we have to work smarter, not harder. So we're not out here just voting independent when we know we don't have a chance to get an independent president. Someone said something, and the light just went on for me. Because remember, Bernie Sanders was an independent. He ran independent for presidency, but y'all notice he ran for Democrat for presidency this time around. So even he understands strategy. Even though he has an independent mindset, he knows that he can move the needle, he can do more running under Democratic, and he can get more votes, because right now we don't have enough votes to push an independent president into that seat. So it's just strategy, y'all. Don't let people try to shame you for voting your interests. Yeah. Shout out to Christy. Thank you for watching on YouTube. Yeah, heavy on voting our interest. That's all we do. That's all we doing is voting our interest. And that's what Lyndon B. Johnson did when he signed over this task force establishment by the Labor Security, which brought about Jobs Corps. And the sad part about it is I'm hearing the stories where they, when this happened, even remember when they first, I know it feels like it was years ago, but it hasn't even been 6 months yet, has it, that we've had this new presidency, and people just started losing their job. All of these people are working government jobs, were getting these emails, and they didn't know if they were supposed to quit or resign. And this is how it works. You just get this email and they're telling you, oh, we're no longer having funds. I know people that, where they have contracts with people who are getting government subsidies, and they're saying, oh, we can't work anymore. The Trump administration is saying we're not funding anything that has diversity, equity, and inclusion in it, and things of that nature. But that money has already been signed for and approved, sealed, stamped, and delivered. That was before he was president, but people are bowing out. The same thing here with Job Corps, where I'm hearing these stories of kids packing up their clothes, their personal items, and having to leave the only home they have. So Job Corps provides housing, education, gives them, so when they walk out of Job Corps, they're going to be able to stand on their own 2 feet with a trade and be able to go get a job. And maybe that's the only place they have to live. A lot of these kids are in the foster system. They come from horrible homes and they have nowhere else to go. And they're being pushed out in the same way that people are being pushed out of their jobs. But then it turns around and a judge has now blocked this whole this whole Job Corps defunding and but meanwhile, people have already been kicked out of these programs, kicked out of the only home that they know. And now what happens next? It's the same stuff that's been happening, and it's just so sad. So so after all of this, people being kicked out of their Job Corps and not having anywhere to go, now we have a judge who has blocked this movement that this current president has put into effect. And I'm just trying to find the clip that talks about this, blocking this judge or the y'all current administration. So here it is here. So okay, so it's not a clip. So it's a temporary block, and it blocks the Trump administration plan to suspend Job Corps centers nationwide, a move that would displace thousands of young people, again, ages 16 to 24, who rely on the program for free housing, education, and career training. The Department of Labor announced in May it would end the program, citing serious incident reports of fiscal concerns. But again, a judge has blocked the Trump administration's shutdown. And this is the thing that teased me off about Congress and those who sit in these seats. Soon as y'all hear it's time to go, that the current administration says it's time to go, y'all just move. Y'all don't allow the Supreme Court, the judicial system to do their part. You just start kicking people out of their job, kicking people out of their institutions, and then you got to come back and bring them back. Like, make it make sense. Just make it make sense. So it's really sad and it's unfortunate that we're, where we are today. I want to touch a little bit on this Diddy. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time with it. In talks to the terrorists, I just want to kind of go over that just a little bit, because even, this man is playing games with the tariffs. 1 minute they're increasing them, next minute they're decreasing them. Next minute we're doing tariffs, next minute we're not. In the meantime, some people are making money on the stock market. Some people are losing money, and they're playing this game with this president, and he's playing with a lot of people's money. But who's getting hurt the worst? The American people, tax-paying people, because just like during COVID or any other crisis, people take advantage of consumers. And so they just, put the price up. You know what I'm saying? Yesterday's price ain't today's price. And now, he changed his mind, but the prices don't go down. Okay, the prices don't go down. So there was an appeals court. Again, this is another where they overruled a lower court prohibited tariffs. The Supreme Court overruled until further review. So the U.S. Court of Appeals of the Federal Circuit, in the brief order that would grant y'all's president administration's request for an immediate administrative stay, to the extent that the judgments and the permanent injunctions entered by the court, international trade in these cases, are temporarily stayed for now. So basically, the 3-judge panel had unanimously ruled that this was wrong. He couldn't do this, that it's a no-go. And one of these people who unanimously ruled was a Trump appointed judge. One was I think was a Obama appointed judge. And I think one was from the Reagan administration. But again, this current administration, then you have the higher courts siding with y'all's president. But here's the thing, he's just making decisions without using his civics understanding, because he doesn't, even if he cares to know the three branches of government, he doesn't know. And he doesn't care to use our democracy. He thinks he's a king and he makes decisions, and people scramble and act like he is a king and just make decisions based off what he says, instead of saying, no. This has to go through Congress. This has to be reviewed. So there are three branches of government, and there's a reason for that. Those who came about, who founded this country, had the right idea. They didn't want a kingdom or a queendom. They wanted the people to be able to vote and make decisions based on what would be best, what the majority wanted, right? And so the three branches of government is legislative, executive, and judicial. The legislative is the Congress. That's your Senate and your House of Representatives. It goes through the House first. Once the bill gets into the House, it's signed off. If it's approved, then it goes into the Senate. If it's approved, the president signs off on it. The vice president can veto it and vote. Then you have the legislative branch. The executive branch, and that's where the president lies, and the vice president, and they enforce the laws and that are passed by Congress. So they make sure that, whatever has been passed through the House is protected. Okay. And then you have the judicial. So when there's an argument about a law that is passed, that's the Supreme Court, as well as other lower federal courts. They interpret the laws. They ensure that they are applied fairly and consistently. And if it is composed of the Supreme Court, and as well as I said, the lower federal governments. Then you have, but this president is doing executive orders. And for those who may not understand, an executive order is temporary, and it's usually used in situations of desperation. So maybe in the time of war, you think of something where there's a law, there's a hurricane, and an executive order would be martial law, for example. So maybe we need order in the country, and so an executive order is put in. It's martial law. But when a new president comes in, and even Congress still has the right to refute that. Okay, which they're not doing because we know who the majority is that rules. But executive order is temporary. When a new president comes in, they can throw that shit out the window. Y'all know what was that one movie? Was it Janky Promoters? Forgive me. That's one of my favorite comedies. They can throw that out like how they did Old Boy's CD, his tape. He was trying to play their rap music. And it was like, yeah, throw that. He said, we'll let the streets hit, and threw it out the window. That's what the next president can do. Let the streets have it and throw them executive orders right on out the window. Okay. So he's not doing any of that. And in the meantime, we're paying the price. We're paying more for things because people are scrambling and saying, we got to up the price because of these tariffs, even though they haven't even been implemented legally, officially. And now that they're up, and they stay there. I'm thinking of DJ Khalid. When the prices go up, they stay there. And again, don't hate the oppressor, hate the oppressed, because we still buy this stuff, y'all. So we have the ability to say, you know what, y'all taking advantage of us, and this is a problem. And since you're taking advantage of us, we won't buy these products. A lot of us love eggs, but do we need them? No, we can survive without eggs. A lot of us love, Shein and whatever we purchase, cheaper clothing from other countries. But do we need that? No. Even locally, grocery stores, hardware, cars, all these prices are going up. We can just not buy them. And then they'll have to answer to us and say, well, the people aren't buying it, so they can't make money. Stockholders ain't making money. Nobody's making money. So we have that power and control, and we don't use it in the way that we can. Thank you, John, for joining me on YouTube. He says Donald Trump is a bully. I agree. My name is Latoya, and I support this message. Definitely a bully. Definitely a bully. So my question to us is, what are we going to do when the prices go up and they stay there? What are we going to do about that? Because again, the difference between a moment and a movement, and God bless the late great Joe Madison, who said this, the difference between a moment and a movement is sacrifice. Yes, it's uncomfortable, but sometimes we have to make sacrifices. We have to stop shopping at places that think they can take advantage of our dollar, because they'll do it as long as we allow them to do it. Shout out to Jamal Bryant, who's now saying we need to boycott Dollar General. And, Target has been successful. He spoke to that. And I'll play his clip really quick just to highlight that because I didn't get to talk about that last week. Um, but he's asking us to boycott Dollar General, except in rural areas. But I'll let him speak. That'll give me a chance to stop talking and let you guys hear what his takeaway is on an interview he did a few weekends ago.
Front now, Pastor Jamal Bryant, for his exclusive first television interview since announcing this protest of Dollar General. And Pastor Bryant, just to start here, Target admitted that their sales were down almost 4% last quarter. And they specifically admitted that it was due in part to your boycotts over its rollback of some DEI policies. So why now zero in on Dollar General when obviously there are other companies out there, by the way, dime a dozen, who have rolled back their diversity, equity, and inclusion policies?
First, I've got to take note that this boycott against Target is the most successful boycott by Black people in 70 years since the Montgomery bus boycott. They've lost $12 billion in valuation. Their stock tumbled from $145 a share to $93 a share. The CEO's salary was cut by 43%. And so I just wanted to put an asterisk of what happens when our community mobilizes and stays focused. We have canceled Target with 13 weeks in and decided we shouldn't have to grovel for respect when we give $12 million a day. We chose Dollar General because, quite frankly, as you just aforementioned, they're 3 times larger than Target and Walmart combined and have never given to any organization within the Black community. Dollar General is within 5 miles of 75% of Americans' homes and still no accountability. They are a contributor to food deserts, not just in absence of food, but absence of fairness. And so we wanted to hold them accountable.
Now, I know your approach is a bit different than what you did with Target.
Yeah.
So in this case, in Target, obviously, it was a boycott of actual purchases. In this case, you're also asking people to inundate Dollar General with calls, with messages, as opposed to an outright boycott of its stores. So explain why. Why is Dollar General different than Target?
Because Dollar General has really done predatory practices in rural communities. A lot of people, when they think about African Americans, it's urban, but we forget about those who are in rural areas. And the inundation of a Dollar General is in communities of 20,000 or less. And regrettably, they stand as the only portal for people to get access to food and vegetation. And so for those communities who that is their only option, we don't want to cause further damage. But in urban areas, we're asking them to stay away and everybody to call and to email and to use social media just as we did with Target.
That's what we can do. We can do things. Like I said, the difference between a moment and a movement is sacrifice. It might not feel good. Listen, Target was my jam. I ain't gonna hold you. Target was my jam. But it was nothing for me to stop going there. You know what I'm saying? Some of the products that I bought there were Black owned. Again, Lip Bar. This right here. This is a Boss Lady. I think so. But yeah, I buy directly from the supplier now, the Black owned supplier. And a lot of things you can buy directly. So there are different things you can do. And this is what we should be doing. People love to, go back and romanticize the Montgomery bus boycott. But those people walked, and those who carpool did so, and those who didn't carpool, people donated shoes because they were walking, and they did it for 2 years. You know what I'm saying? So it's not going to happen overnight. It might not even happen in our lifetime that we will see the change that we're demanding, but at least we can take the steps to let it be known that you can't play in our faces. You cannot disrespect us and then expect us to respect you. But again, just talking about trade jobs as well, because we have to, build our own table. They don't want to give us a seat at the table. That's okay. We build our own. Encourage your kids to learn a trade. Again, when I was in school, my dad encouraged me to find a trade, but I really didn't know what I wanted to do, except my only passion at the time was writing, but I didn't have anyone who knew enough to direct me. If I had the right person who understood what my passion was, which was writing, they would have had me, maybe send me over to the Review Journal, which is a local newspaper company here, to write articles or just have some type of internship to have an education and get into a journalistic background and just, do something of that nature, which doesn't necessarily require a full-blown college education. Just understanding the rules and regulations. GB is adding to the conversation as well. He says, maybe I'm late, but with all of the boycotts, what are the alternatives? Will someone share a link that will list stores and vendors who we should support? I can tell you for sure, you can go to buyfromablackwoman.com. There are so many different businesses, and it's just not Black women. Because I heard somebody say, well, why is it always Black women? I just mentioned what I know comes off the top of my head. Buyfromablackwoman.com lists all kind of Black businesses, from toilet paper to paint. I mean, we're talking hardware to our shea butter to, regular household items, fruits, vegetables. There's Black farmers. There's so many. You can go to that website, and you can probably get to where you're trying to go to purchase from Black people. Yeah, it might cost you more. Yeah, it might not be as convenient. Maybe it's not going to come next day like Amazon, but at least know, where to go. You know what I'm saying? A lot of the pride that I have in myself is knowing that I don't have to depend on these people. Like, if you take your ball and go home, I got my own ball, and I know where to go buy another one from if I don't have one. Like, I'm not at the mercy of you. I never want to be at the mercy of someone who, soon as, that doesn't play fair. And so it's important for us to understand, what resources are out there, because they are out there. But that's just something I can think of. Please share in the chat if you can think of other places we can go to shop. Buyfromblackwoman.com. Here in Las Vegas, we have a farm. We have our own garden here, farm right here on the West Las Vegas. We can go buy fruits and vegetables from. There's so many different other things, and you have to remember that AI is starting to take over. Bill Gates predicted AI will replace humans for most things, with a few professions left, and but they're going to be taking over biology, energy, software development, teaching, even medical. They're going to be using AI. So we need to be able to have things that AI can't do. We need to be able to have our own side hustle if need be, to be able to make money and provide for our families. And go back and watch the documentary, The Future of Us. And it's an Oprah Winfrey special. And I think it's on Hulu. I definitely encourage you guys to watch that. There was one gentleman who was a CEO, Dario Omodi, who said that AI will take over 50% of the entry-level white-collar jobs in the next 5 years. So that's important. Just before, so Dollar General. I kind of want to touch on this Japan thing. I'll just tell you, Japan has created the first artificial womb. So Japanese scientists have successfully created an artificial womb capable of sustaining mammalian embryos entirely outside of a human body. They control the environment. The controlled environment mimics the conditions of natural uteruses, representing a huge step forward to reproductive technology. This shit is scary to me. Some of the benefits, this is what they're arguing, some of the benefits, it saves the lives of extremely premature infants, could revolutionize infertility treatments, offer an alternative for people unable to carry pregnancies, reduces health risks for mothers with life-threatening complications. But let's keep in mind that, there was a time in the Asian community, and I can't say Japan particularly, but China for sure, where there was a 1 to 2 baby rule. And now that they're, for Japan in 2024, they have fewer births than any other time in its recorded history, and the fertility rate continues to drop despite government initiatives. So this could be one of the reasons why they're doing that. If you watch The Handmaid's Tales, one of the reasons why they justify forcing women to have sex with their masters, because they enslaved these women, snatched them up and forced them to have sex with people and give birth to kids, and then they snatched their babies from them, is because there was a low birth rate globally. And so they thought they told them they were doing God's will. So all of this is relative. But some of the, the cons to this is that it's, it's just weird. It's just weird. This could be, are they doing this without the consent? It's bad enough that now you can go and get a baby. And I know this is a controversial topic, but it's bad enough that you can go get sperm or an egg, and your child will be born not knowing who their parent is, because that child is going to be released into the world, and they're going to interact with the rest of the world. And we might have many, many more deformed babies because nobody knows their ancestry. Nobody knows their DNA. Nobody knows who their brothers and sisters are and their cousins. And there's no way for them to know, because they were produced through egg donations and sperm donations. And so I understand people are desperate to have children. There's a lot of kids in foster care. I'm not trying to judge you. I don't know what it's like to be in that position, so I'm not judging you. But I'm just thinking of the cons of that is it's going to be a lot of kids with three eyes because they having sex with their siblings and they don't have any clue because they're just they're being developed from random sperm and eggs. And, that's something to think about. We are going to wrap it up. Do I want to get into this little Diddy thing? I just wanted to say a few things. Bill Maher said something. Maybe let's go ahead and just get it out the way. I know y'all ready to go. But I just wanted to play this Bill Maher clip because we talked about this last week, just before we wrap it up. We talked about this last week or the week before. And, my pushback was, why are we always blaming the victim? And a lot of people, pushback was that Cassie kept coming back. Cassie could have left. Cassie this, Cassie that. And my argument was, I don't care how many times she came back. The abuse is still a crime. So you can say, oh, she came back, but the person who committed the crime was the abuser. And so we like to turn the cheek and look the other way and blame the victim, the person who was actually getting their ass beat. But in fact, I don't care how many times she came back, she was not the one beating her ass. She was getting her ass beat. And so there was a Bill Maher interview he did. I forget who he was talking to. I'll be able to see once I play the clip. But he had something to say about the situation, just in light of the Diddy case. I'm going to play this real quick before we get out of here. And just get your takeaway, what your thoughts are. Maybe we'll touch on it again next Saturday, just to see what you think about it. We'll revisit this. So this is Bill Maher and his takeaway with Cassie and his comparing it to Tina Turner. Child, listen.
Get it. Part of the allure of the music industry is you want to be a star. But if we're going to have an honest conversation about abuse, we also have to have an honest conversation about what people are willing to do for stardom. If you want a #1 record on the chart so bad you'll take a #1 in the face, some of that is on you. If you're literally being held captive, that's one thing. But if you're putting up with whatever for love or for your career, then you need to have a little more honesty and accountability about that. Ike Turner was a psycho, just like Diddy. But in an era where there was no movement to help her, Tina Turner somehow got away. And it's not victim shaming to expect women to have the agency to leave toxic relationships. Quite the contrary. To not expect that is infantilizing them. If Diddy walks free, it will be because his lawyers can point to an endless stream of text from Cassie expressing what's often called enthusiastic consent to their sex life. If you're Me Tooing someone, it doesn't help your case if you texted him, "Me too. I just want it to be uncontrollable." If you want us to think you weren't always ready to freak off, don't write, "I'm always ready to freak off."
So just to get an understanding, this particular trial is not about domestic violence. It is about him committing crimes, sex trafficking. And they're using Cassie's testimony along with other witnesses that have come on the stand and that will come on the stand to describe their encounters, what happened during their relationships with Diddy, to highlight where he committed crimes, which was maybe sex trafficking, maybe forced sex. So it's not a Cassie trial. She's not on trial for any crime that she did. Maybe she even has immunity. I'm not even sure, but she did not ask to be on the stand. She was put on the stand in order to tell information that may have evidence that would help to incarcerate this man for committing such crimes that are associated with federal laws of sex trafficking. It has nothing to do with him beating her ass. And that's the main argument. That's the thing that bothered me the most about people that have these arguments. And then bringing up Tina Turner. If you watch the movie What's Love Got to Do with It, Tina Turner finally escaped after a fight in the back of a limo out the car with just her white suit that she had on. And the stories that I've heard, that I know personally, of women who left abusive relationship, they left with nothing. They may be left with their child birth certificate and social security card, but all of their clothing, all of these materialistic things they may have acquired during the relationship, jewelry, basic necessities, they left it all because they had to escape. and some go back because they don't have an option. And I talked about that. And I just want to just keep reiterating to people that try to victimize, make the victim be the bad guy, is that if you haven't been in that situation, you don't understand. And me not having been in that situation, I can understand and empathize because, again, I know people who've been in it. I've read the psychology of it. And although I wish it didn't have to be that people can just leave the first time and go away, a lot of people don't. They leave and then they die because these people come after them and take their lives. So, again, this case isn't about domestic violence. This case is about him breaking a law, paying people for sex, which is illegal in his state. So that's what that's about. So that's the Diddy case. We talked about the tariffs, and the bottom line is, you guys, listen, if you don't like these increasing prices, then I suggest you do the sacrifice and stop paying for things because it's up to us. So just to circle back on GB's question, asking for websites and links, Black businesses. So this is a list of some that I've had. Indivisible.org, Shop Black, shopblacklive.com, Black app, shopthehood.org, buyfromablackwoman.com. Also, you can find Black farmers. You can get your meat. You can get your produce. Go to Black Farmers Index, justsecurity.org. It's national and world news breakdown on new articles and policies. You can go there to get more information. And then there's True Laundry Detergent. That's Black owned. So these are some of the places you can go. You might have to rewind this or screenshot it so you can have this for your records. Again, this is the Black Farmers Index, and there's also some other websites. These are businesses that support you: Costco, Pepsi, Coca-Cola. I'm sure there's many other, Darden, Etsy, Pepsi, and Elf. That's a cosmetic Elf. And again, these are some other businesses that support Black people or Black owned. Forgive me. So again, I just want to encourage people to, be self-reliant. Get a trade, whatever that may be, whatever you think you can be useful at: plumbing, electrical, painting, masonry. There's so many different jobs out there. I can't think of everything. You're very welcome, GB, that we can do. And I'll talk more about it in the shows to come, just to keep us, abreast on what we can do, because we all have to look out for each other. Community is everything. Okay. So we're about to end the show, but I appreciate you joining, Miss Ikari Banks. Thank you so much. But before I end the show, of course, I also want to thank you guys. I have to do that. And so let me go ahead and give my thank you. And as you know, I like to close out with a little levity because, the show gets heavy. I can't help it, y'all. These are the things that are on my mind. These are the things that matter to me. And I like to laugh too, but I don't need us to be distracted from non-factors, things that don't really matter. I want us to focus on things that are important as well. I'm going to close out with a little comedy from D-Ray. Early in the show, we were talking about men calling men to say good night, night, night. You want to go night, night? Saying good night. And I just thought it was funny. It tickled me how the men reacted overall to it. So D-Ray said this years ago in a comedy stand-up. So it's a little short clip. I'll play this and then we'll get up out of here. Okay. That's D-Ray talking about how men can't say good night to each other.
Certain stuff man can't do no more. Thou shalt not. Like a man cannot tell another man good night. It don't feel right. Hey man, hey, see you tomorrow. Hey, good night. No. Hell no. Like a man cannot wait for another man to get in the house safely. Call when you get in. Man, pull the hell off. Hope I get shot out here. That's how I'm living. Certain stuff man can't.
That's what's up. Okay. And let me get this last comment in, because GB said to the women, indeed, he said, yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned this, because I couldn't think of all the other trade jobs, but he said, don't be intimidated by having an interest in a male-dominated field. There are plenty of women who have CDL. They have trucking. That's another one. You know what I'm saying? CDL, truck driving, or electricians, plumbers, iron workers, and carpenters. Let me let y'all know, the only Black electrician on record in Nevada is a Black woman, and she happens to be my auntie, my father's sister. Okay. Yeah. So we can do it. And she has a background in being a nail technician. She has a background in corporate. Like, she ain't scared to get involved. You know what I'm saying? She's not scared to get her hands dirty or keep them clean, you know? And so, yeah. So, yeah, there's definitely trucking too. And we'll get into this again. And I hope that you guys will share some other jobs that people can get into. And then another thing with this whole truck driver, you know, they're trying to make these truck driverless. I mean, in the store the other day, and they got the things that clean the floor. It's driving itself, and I'm just watching it because I'm just seeing it's gonna hit somebody. I just want to see, but it wouldn't. It would stop. You know, it has the whole sensor motion thing and all of that. But anyway, I've really enjoyed hanging out with you guys. I so appreciate y'all for engaging me in the chat. Your presence is always my present. I hope that you enjoy your day. Be safe. Get your annuals. Love on somebody. Hug somebody tight. Show empathy, be kind to each other. We're all going through something, y'all. You just never know what a person's going through, and they might be responding to their own personal issues, but give them grace. You know what I'm saying? Don't let people just walk all over you, but give them grace. And we have to stick together. We need community, no matter what our, race, sexuality, religion. We have to stick together and fight against those who are trying to take us down. This earth, God ain't making no more land. This earth belongs to God. Man did not create earth. It cannot rule over us. Okay. I love you guys. Enjoy the rest of your day, weekend, and I will see you next week. All right.